Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GeekWave. This is the low-budget show. It's the show so low it has no budget. And much like the evolution of CGI and storytelling, things are going to get worse and better at the same time. We're talking about the Hulk today. This is how I'm doing the Captain America Brave New World episode. Yep, we're not even going to be talking about Captain America Brave New World. It just reminded me of like the state of Hulk. I thought we'd talk about it. I like Hulk. We'll get into it. We have a lot of news to talk about. Some really big stuff that is honestly earth-shattering and the things that are essentially changing the face of Hollywood. It feels like a final pillar of like independent thought is being destroyed in front of us. And then we have some weird casting updates for people being in movies and a reboot and a couple of like DC Universe stuff to talk about. So let's get into it. Let's start with the big news, which is something we kind of talked about it a couple weeks ago because Barbara Broccoli, she said, Amazon and MGM are fucking morons. They don't know what they're doing. Well, in that time, we're talking about James Bond 007 stuff. In that time, her and Michael G. Wilson, who are like the main stays that hold the rights to Bond and 007, well, they're going to be taking a step back, quote unquote, as Amazon MGM takes full control of the Bond property. So I am of a lot of opinions in here, and I talked about this in my blog. If you do read that, I don't care if you do. It's just, another thing I do. I really hate it. I think it's a really annoying idea, and it's truly kind of scary that this is where we are. Bond was one of the like final holdoffs of like a creator owning a thing. This deal, and I know I'm not exaggerating here. This deal is like when George Lucas sold off Star Wars to Disney. That's what this is. When Lucasfilm became a division of Disney, that is what this is. We are seeing a sole shareholder of a thing selling it off to a company who has the potential to destroy it and dilute the formula. I think a lot of people could argue that has been the case with Star Wars. Whether you like George Lucas's original vision, whether you like Disney Star Wars, that's a whole other conversation. I am of two minds. I think there's good and bad in both. Mainly bad in both, but whatever. That is probably and very likely going to be the case with 007 going forward. Because there's no way MGM and Amazon aren't going to want to turn that into like a big thing. I guess the question would remain like, what would they want to do with it? Personally, I think what they would do is they would get leading men, leading women to play the big characters. So you'd obviously cast your new James Bond, you'd cast your Felix Leiter, you'd cast your M, your Q, your Moneypenny, and then you'd cast somebody to be like Blofeld probably. You'd get like the big names, the big characters, and I mean, what's the name of the Bond girl from the first movie? Is it Honey Rider? I feel like you'd cast a Honey Rider, like a Pussy Galore, like all the big ones, a Vespa if you wanted. You would cast all of the big names, and then you would cast like a 007, a 008, a 009, a 006. You'd cast all of them. They would sporadically appear in the James Bond movie, which would be called blah, 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 blah. And then we would see spin-offs on Prime about Felix Leiter, about Moneypenny, like Moneypenny Origins, or like here's how like this Bond girl that appeared in this movie connects to this thing. Like here's the Honey Rider 10 episode limited series that leads up to like the events of the next Bond movie when she makes an appearance. I hate that so much. I hate that for Bond because I think a part of the charm of the supporting cast of James Bond is these characters are accessories to this man. That's not to say they don't have agency or character or whatever, but I don't think anybody goes into a Bond movie being like, I need to see the internal workings of Q. I've been waiting to see that. I want to see like what his friend's doing when he's not seeing his friend on screen. I have no hopes for this. I think this is a bad idea. I don't like that it is Amazon doing it because their track record sucks. I think the only successful like one of these types of things that they have done where it's almost universally beloved has been Reacher. Remember what they did to Citadel? Who saw the Citadel stuff? Mr. and Mrs. Smith could be that if they have more people going on with it. I think Jack Ryan's become a forgotten property that nobody really cares to talk about. And they really fucked up with Lord of the Rings. Like, monumentally messed up with the Rings of Power. It's criminal how Amazon and MGM have destroyed a Lord of the Rings television show to the point where it's dwindling returns each episode and nobody's talking about it. How does that happen? How do we get to that point? So no, I am not excited about these people taking on James Bond. I am not. Broccoli was right. These people are fucking morons. I do not like what we are doing here. It does not make me happy. But it's not my money, so who cares? Saying all that too, there's like, 25 James Bond movies? I would argue only a couple of them are really good. Most of them are fine. A lot of them are bad. But at least they are self-contained and don't try to be something they're not worthy of being. You know? So this is going to be messy and dumb, and I don't think it's going to go the way anybody's wanting to. And my biggest fear, because Jeff Bezos put out a fucking tweet about it, being like, who should we cast as James Bond? Sound off in the comments below. I fear this is how we get the Henry Cavill is James Bond stuff, which is, I've said this numerous times, it is the worst fan cast I've ever heard. Henry Cavill is not the choice for Bond. He's not a good actor. He's not a good actor. He's just handsome. And I think he's kind of an arrogant, nerdy dick. I don't like his energy. He was bad for Superman. He's bad for Wolverine. He's bad for James Bond. I think, truly, if this is to work, it needs to be an unknown. You have to cast an unknown in their 30s. And then if you want to make this a cinematic universe, if you kill off that James, you just replace the moniker of 007 with a new person. I don't want to see Daniel Craig or Pierce Brosnan or Timothy Dalton or any of them come back to do like an old man Bond. Like, look at this. No, it has to be fresh. It has to be an unknown. And maybe you could get something off the ground. But as it stands, this is bad news. This is destroying one of the last IPs. I don't even know how many of them are left like this. What other ones are left? You know, I think Mission Impossible is kind of like untouched, but that's its like own thing. That in itself is like a relaunch of an old existing TV show. Like there is none of these really left anymore. So seeing James Bond go from two singular voices talking about what should be and not be in these films, working hard to change the slate, to one of the biggest corporations in the world owns it and its CEO is tweeting to fans who they should cast. Garbage, stupid. I would hope some of the choices that people have are smart enough to be like, this is a stupid idea and I don't want to do it. I'd hope so. I'd really hope so. I really, really dislike this news. But what are you going to do? Things happen. All right, let's move on to another topic. This is a little segment I call, It's the 80s Again. Haven't we moved on? We got our first official look at Nicholas Galitzine as He-Man. It's just his chest. It's the toy. I'm unconvinced by everything this movie's doing. I've talked about it numerous times over. Those set photos really pissed me off, and I don't really want to talk about it anymore. But also, we're doing the Goonies again. So, look, I'm trying not to get worked up. I genuinely like 80s movies. Like the brand 80s movies that you see on like your streaming service where it says, here's a classic 80s film. I like it. There are some movies of that era that I don't like. I think one of the primary things for me is like there's three categories. There's the ones that hold up well. There's like your Escape to New York's, your Big Trouble in Little China. These things that I think are fantastic and cool. And I know I just said Carpenter films, but you know what I mean. Like those really good movies, Back to the Future, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Zemeckis movies and all that. Predator, of course. So it's those ones that I like. Then you have the section that is, I liked them when I was younger, but the more I think about them, the more I don't like how they've aged. That is the category I call John Hughes movies, because I can't rewatch The Breakfast Club anymore. It does not hold up for me. Same with something like Ferris Bueller. It doesn't work for me. 16 Candles doesn't work for me. These films that used to mean something. Ghostbusters is another one I can't connect with. That kind of falls into the next category, but I'm just like, this is nothing for me. Blues Brothers, this does nothing for me. Like, I thought it was fine. Now I don't really care for it. I like the singers in it. Then you get the final category of my connection to 80s films, which is movies from the era that no matter what age I was, it has never worked for me. That is kind of Ghostbusters, though it's just so boring now, so I don't like it. That's E.T. the Extraterrestrial. I'm sorry, I don't like E.T. I think it's one of the most beautiful movies ever made that I just cannot, for the life of me, find any interest in ever watching. It's crazy. But mainly it's the Goonies. I do not give a flying fuck about the Goonies. I can't imagine anybody under 30 or fuck it, under 40 years old giving a shit about a Goonies sequel. And bringing back the same cast, I like Ke-Huy Quan, I like Sean Astin, I like Josh Brolin. I don't need to see Corey Feldman dragging his ass out on like screen again. I don't need that shit. I don't want this. This is a stupid idea, and it's not right. If you want to just have these people in a movie again, make something better than Love Hurts. Do a good movie. Ugh. But it's a name, so it's going to be made. Also, didn't like recently Warner Brothers be like, we want to do Gremlins again? Don't. You can't do, like, there is no space in modern cinema for the feeling of Gremlins. There isn't. You can't do it. You can't do it. I mean, the Wayans want to do another White Chicks. It's like, just do Scary Movie 6. That's what the people want. Don't give me this shit about the White Chicks. Leave it there. God, it's annoying. Goonies is stupid. I'm sorry. I don't care. Let's talk about some casting news, which is just insane. So they are making that Harry Potter show over on HBO Max or whatever it's called. And I guess the contender to play Albus Dumbledore, the ex-boyfriend to Grindelwald, which is Wizard Hitler or something. The top choice is John Lithgow. And that I don't understand a lot of this. First off, he's like 80 years old. Why would you get an 80-year-old man to do like 8 seasons of television? He doesn't want to do that. Let him rest. We're going to have to recast halfway through. Love John Lithgow. Stupid idea. He's also American. So like, why would we cast an American? This is like a British property, isn't it? I don't know. I guess because everyone in Britain said no. I don't think there's a lot of people who want to be associated with like a dead brand like Harry Potter. And to commit yourself to Dumbledore, that sucks. Do you remember when like the rumors were going around that Brett Goldstein was Hagrid? He was going to be Hagrid? I'm like, that is so lame. That is so lame. Actors just don't look the same as they do back then. I don't know. I don't even like the Harry Potter movies. That goes into the Goonies category. I don't give a fuck about it. That would be like the weirdest piece of casting of the week, but there was actually something even stranger, which is that Martin Scorsese is filming a new movie. He's planning a new film. It's got his regulars like Leonardo DiCaprio, a newcomer like Emily Blunt, but also this, folks, Dwayne Johnson. Dwayne Johnson is working with Scorsese, and it's kind of like based on a real life figure. It's like about a ruthless Hawaiian crime boss. A description from Deadline's original report on the film notes that it will be set in a turbulent time on the island Paradise when an aspiring mob boss battled rival crime factions to wrest to wrest control of the underworld of the Hawaiian Islands. And it's like in the 60s and 70s of Hawaii. Okay, first off, Martin Scorsese doing a Hawaiian-based crime thriller? That's awesome. DiCaprio's in it. Weird choice. Imagine like the cool filming locations we could have actually filming in Hawaii. I know they get some tax breaks over there and stuff. I think that's sick. Like, I think what he did with Killers of the Flower Moon, if you were to take that energy over to Hawaii, that's kind of exciting. Should it be like a native Hawaiian filmmaker making this movie? Probably. I don't think that's like a criticism. But you have a guy like Dwayne Johnson coming aboard who I don't like him as an actor, but clearly he wants to prove something of himself and to all of Hollywood. So, sure. Like, it's kind of silly that he made like a live action Moana and now he's doing this. Weird choice. It could be interesting. Like, I think he really wants to figure himself out as a director. So, yeah, go for it. Do what you have to do. Make your piece. Make your movie. I'm fine with it. Whatever you need to do, Dwayne, get it out of your system. I'm happy with it. So our final piece of news is a little bit of stuff that's actually coming out today at the time I'm recording this from DC Studios. They announced a couple of animated projects, which is kind of interesting. One of them being a Starfire origin film. Not film, series. Series, I mean, it's a series, which follows her leaving Thanagar and doing all that stuff. So that's fun. Is it Thanagar, or is that the one for Hawk people? Tamaran. She's from Tamaran. I'm sorry. Tamaran. Whatever. You know what I mean. Starfire origin. That's cool. My Adventures with Green Lantern, which sounds like it could take place in the My Adventures of Superman world, which follows a young Jessica Cruz as she finds a ring. Love that idea. A lot of crazy stuff you could bring in there. Really exciting. And then one called, what is it? Superpower, I think? It's something like that. Or is it Super Friends? I'm trying to find the actual article here. Just because I'm on Twitter, so I just find these things on Twitter. Superpowers. Okay. The series follows new students Lightning, Flash, Plastic Man, Aquagirl, Green Lantern, and Terra learning at a school headed by Principal Martian Manhunter. That's cool. I like that. This doesn't say if it's a movie or not. I'm not sure what that is, but that's kind of cool. I guess they also, like, DC has a plan where their goal is to release 7 projects a year, 2 live-action films, 1 animated film, 2 live-action shows, and 2 animated series. There's a plan to set... This is, like, set up for the next 6 years. Okay. That's a lot. I don't know how I feel about some of that, but whatever. I do like the pushback of, like, let's just do 2 live-action movies a year. Boy, that's some nice restraint. I do appreciate that. I like that. It's very nice. You know, don't even make these movies anymore. We'll see, but cool. Starfire, that's exciting. Green Lantern show, that's always nice. Big push from Green Lantern over there at DC, so you got to appreciate that. And, yeah, that's cool. I don't know, more stuff. Clayface got a director from Speak No Evil, so that's exciting. A lot of cool stuff going on. But let's talk about something that's not really cool in the terms of comic books on screen. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, let's talk about the Hulk. So yeah, we're going to start this Incredible Hulk episode talking about the latest Hulk movie, which is Captain America Brave New World. Is that what it's called? Brave New World? I saw it. I did watch it. I thought about doing a review of the movie because I want to talk about a couple superhero films that are coming out this year. Like, I want to talk about Superman. I want to talk about Fantastic Four. I'm like, it'd be weird if I just did those ones. So should I talk about, like, Captain America and Thunderbolts and, like, everything, you know? I think the last actual review, like, straight up review that wasn't, like, a live stream or one of, like, an episode of the GeekWave that I did for a comic book movie was Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. A movie that I've grown to appreciate its efforts more, but I still don't want to talk about them. Like, I'm a comic book fan, and it's weird that I've reached this point in my life where I just don't want to talk about comic book movies, like, in this format. That should tell you something about the state of these films. I just don't want to talk about them. But, I mean, it's Superman, it's Fantastic Four, those are like the things. So I want to talk about those. But would it be weird if I just did those and I didn't talk about the fourth Captain America movie and the sequel to Black Widow and Ant-Man and the Wasp and Falcon and the Winter Soldier? Thunderbolts? That's its own bag of worms I don't want to get into. I have a lot of thoughts on Thunderbolts. Primarily, I don't really think anything they've shown is for me. But we had a new Captain America movie come out, and it's not a good movie. It's not. And I'm okay if people like it and they enjoy it. I don't care. I just think if, like, this is your standard for, like, what makes a film good, is you just shouldn't have, like, thoughts on film, because this is a poorly edited and slapdash piece of filmmaking that looks bad, is badly crafted, and hates itself. It is such a spiteful movie. There's no reason for this to be a movie. And I hate to say that, but it's just so lame. And the performances are dumb. And for some reason, the fourth Captain America movie is a direct sequel to 2008's The Incredible Hulk. And I don't know why that happened. And that, like, I guess this is the episode to talk about, like, what the fuck happened to the Hulk in these movies. What happened to the Hulk? It's so weird. Why did he become this thing? I think it's because they don't want to pay for the money to transform Bruce Banner into the Hulk anymore, so he's like a weird blend that looks more like a guy than the Hulk. But it's so exhausting. And I think it opens up this really good question that a lot of fans have, and that is, are we ever going to see a good Hulk in live action again? And that is kind of what I want to talk about with this episode, is like, have we had a good Hulk in live action? Will we have one again? And what are, like, the extended universe characters like I want to see? You know? Like, this movie, Brave New World, featured the Serpent Society. If you can call that featuring them. People are in there with guns. Yeah. If we really wanted to make this connected to Hulk, we could have used the UFOs. Like, that'd be cool. Right? Would that be anything? Why did it have to be the Serpent Society? Then we'd have powerful characters that we could use in the movie, and it wouldn't matter what happens to Red Hulk. I don't get it. Absorbing Man? Titania? We could have them be the characters. I don't know. Like, imagine if instead of Sidewinder, it was Talbot. It was General Talbot who went rogue. And he's going against Thunderbolt Ross, a guy like he helped build up, right? That would be interesting, instead of like some random Giancarlo Esposito that shows up and isn't connected to anybody and isn't on screen of hardly anybody. It's such a weird bag of just bad choices and dumb ideas, and that movie sucks. And I bring up all those characters. I bring up General Talbot and Absorbing Man and the UFOs and like Gremlin and Zemnu and all these guys, because I don't think we're ever going to see them in these movies. And that really sucks. Because I think the Hulk universe could be explored. And while I don't think we've ever truly captured the essence of like a good Hulk comic book on screen, I like a lot of it. You know, I grew up in the era of Ang Lee's Hulk. That is still my favorite Marvel movie, is Ang Lee's Hulk. It is a very disturbing body horror comic book, universal monster flick with a big budget and like a weird thing to say about the war and Afghan and that kind of stuff. It's weird, but I like it, and I think it's a cool little movie that we would never make today, and it's always going to have like nostalgic place for me. And that movie almost has something to do with like Absorbing Man and Zax and, connecting those characters into like the Hulk's dad. So it's about like the trauma of an abusive father. Like it's almost there. It also has a really good score. Like it's the best score for a Hulk thing. Because what is the score for Ruffalo's Hulk or Norton's Hulk? You can't really think of one. It's a good movie. I'm sorry, it's good. I'm nostalgic for it because it worked and it was interesting and it had ideas. And we haven't had a Hulk idea for a while. Like, I look at, like, the current state of Hulk in the MCU. It's weird. Like, the last time we properly saw, like, this is the Hulk was Thor Ragnarok, wasn't it? Because in Infinity War, he didn't turn into the Hulk. He was in the Hulkbuster suit. In Endgame, he just was Smart Hulk. And then in Shang-Chi, wasn't he just Bruce Banner? So what was that about? I don't know. Why did he revert back? I don't know. It was silly. And then in She-Hulk, he was just Smart Hulk the whole time. And Scar showed up. So that's fun. So what's the current state of Hulk in the MCU before we get into like other interpretations? He is Smart Hulk, Professor Hulk. He has his son Scar. Jennifer Walters has become She-Hulk in the best thing Marvel has made ever. General Ross did Red Hulk out, and now he's in prison. The Abomination exists, and he is in prison? Yeah. He was in Shang-Chi, fighting Wong, and then he was in She-Hulk, and he tried to, like, go to trial, and he's still there. And then the leader's back on the raft. So, yeah. Essentially, every Hulk character in the MCU, aside from She-Hulk, is not their proper character. So, you have to ask yourself, number one, are we happy with how the Hulk is? Number two, are fans of this Hulk reading comic books? And three, will it get better? So first off, am I happy with it? No. Because I am a fan of Hulk in the comic books. Hulk is one of the characters that I got into Marvel with. Like, I like age 3, 4, 5, I saw Hulk and I saw The Thing. And I'm like, these are big guys with big muscles. And there was toys around that time when I could buy them, and I liked those toys, and I liked those designs, so it got me into Marvel. What made me stay in Marvel were characters like Hawkeye and Moon Knight and Iron Fist and Sue Storm and Janet Van Dyne, and those are the characters like I've come to love and appreciate, and they're my favorite characters. But Hulk is just like, it's like a scary character for children, and I don't think we're ever going to have a scary Hulk on screen again. Like we just aren't going to go that route anymore. So I'm not happy with it. I do like the comic books. And do I think it's going to get better? I don't think it's going to get better. I think what's going to happen is we're going to do Maestro. And I think it's either going to be Edward Norton's going to win his Oscar, which could happen. It could happen. Edward Norton this year, in like a week from now, could be Oscar-winning Edward Norton. And they say, hey, do you want to do Secret Wars as like an old futuristic version of Hulk? And we could have you come in there and do that for a minute. Or it's Eric Bana who does it. Or, honestly, Lou Ferrigno. That worked too. Is he still alive? I think he's still alive. Truthfully, I think the only comic accurate thing we're going to see from the Hulk, like classic comic book Hulk stuff, is one of the actors who previously played him, whether it's Ferrigno or Bill Bixby or Eric Bana or Edward Norton, any of them coming back, and they're going to be Maestro. I think that's what's going to happen, and then they'll be like, oh, we did The Thing. And oh man, oh man, it would work for me. It would work for me in ways where seeing like Miles Teller as the Maker would work for me too, where it's like you're taking something that was a failure for the Marvel stuff and bringing into something that works. It's a smarter idea than just having Wesley Snipes show up as Blade again. Like there's an actual story reason that he gets to that point. So I think that would be interesting. And I think that's an idea they're just saving, you know? They're going to use it. Is it going to be good? Probably not. These movies aren't good. They don't know how to handle the Hulk. I think a lot of it is they don't want the character to be too scary, and Mark Ruffalo doesn't want to present as scary. I think Ruffalo is a good actor. Like, I think he's a very strong performance, and the worst thing he's done... Look, the best thing for his career was playing Bruce Banner. The worst performance he's given is Bruce Banner, because it's turned into Mark Ruffalo playing Mark Ruffalo. It's not a performance anymore. There's not like the neurotic nature of somebody like Edward Norton. And that's, look, I really do like the Incredible Hulk movie. I'm one of the only few people that do. It really reminds me of like a scary military force coming after a neurotically broken man. Like, Edward is like the first one to play, this guy is unhinged. At any moment, he is very unstable and scary. And I don't get the presence of like a safe guy. But this new Hulk is dabbing and he's like happy. And it's like, no. I don't even think modern comic book writers want to make Hulk happy. Like, we've had so many runs where he's like scary, or like he's a spaceship, or he's like an immortal being that's a killer. I haven't read the current Philip Kennedy Johnson run, but I don't imagine he's like happy. You know, it's weird. He's Frankenstein. He's Jekyll and Hyde. Why does that become happy? It shouldn't be happy. Honestly, I think Creature Commandos with Frankenstein, which is a version of Frankenstein I don't really like, that is how the Hulk should be, just aloof, unsure of the world, and mad at everything. And I don't think we have seen that in the MCU. So, I don't like where Hulk's at. Seeing a Captain America movie with Hulk characters acting not like Hulk characters in a very bad movie is upsetting. And the fact that the sequel is in a Captain America movie as opposed to Mark Ruffalo hanging out with any... Look, Ruffalo's never been on screen with Tim Blake Nelson in an MCU project. So, why should I care? Has he even been on... Like, he's been in scenes with, like, William Hurt's character, but he hasn't been on screen of Harrison Ford's version. So they're just completely new characters at this point, essentially. So, like, why should I care? Why should I feel anything towards them? It's very strange, very annoying. Them's the breaks. So, let's kind of talk about what was the best live-action Hulk performance, or like the best version of Hulk. It goes back to the Incredible Hulk TV show, which I know a lot of the young people listening to this probably haven't watched, and I'm okay with that. I understand it's not a show for everyone. It's right there in like the 70s and early 80s, and personally, it's kind of like where my basis of the Hulk came from. Not because like I've seen every episode, but that was the cultural awareness that I had for the Hulk. The people in my life who were older than me talked about this show. And I was aware of it because, surprisingly, it was a real TV show. It acted like a TV show. David Banner would go to place, do stuff, and then turn into the Hulk for a minute, which is kind of the vibe of really old school Marvel Comics Hulk. Like, we're talking Stanley era Hulk is Jekyll and Hyde, but like dumb. And that's what it was. And I think if we're talking like pure aesthetically, most in line with the comic books of the era it is a part of, I think the Incredible Hulk TV show is the most accurate. Because the comics weren't that good, but they existed. You know, they were there. They happened. And I think, he wasn't too big, and it looked practical. It's the only time we had a practical Hulk, which I get it. And I think Bill Bixby does good. He gets the job out there. He's like, I have to play this in a certain way, plays it a certain way. Lou Ferrigno has the embodiment. He gets it right. He's big, he's intimidating, he's screaming. It is a good hairdo on him. It works really well. I'm sorry that I think it's good. I know that's like a stupid thing to say, and I always get a lot of criticism from people being like, oh, you only like the old stuff. I'm like, yeah, I do. Because the modern stuff is too overly designed. And in the 70s, we just painted a bodybuilder green, threw a tree at him, and then the other, 30 minutes, it was just Bill Bixby talking to people like, this is a weird situation we're in. I'm trying not to be stressed about it. That's all it was. That's all it was. And it worked for 5 seasons. And people were happy with it. And I don't know if it ever got better. It didn't get worse, if that makes sense. I think it's completely fine, I wanted to stick to live action because I think a lot of the animated projects do Hulk right because you're allowed to be crazy in Hulk projects. There are iconic villains in early on Hulk comic books, but it's the 70s. We're not going to have all of them on screen. So I'm fine with it. I genuinely think this was good. And it got the job done and knew what it was doing, and I enjoyed it. I think it was smart. It was interesting. It had its audience, and its audience liked the show. And it made people aware of the Hulk. It made Hulk a household name. Which is crazy. It was the cultural basis for the Hulk forever. And still to this day, I think it's the most accurate to a comic book. It's not my favorite, but I do like it. I think it works well, and it's really funny and silly, and just it holds up fine. Stan Lee liked it, but he likes anything, so that doesn't matter. And then I would go on till the 80s, and then he'd have guest appearances on TV movies. We were Trial of the Incredible Hulk, where Daredevil was there. And remember when he fought Thor or something? It's all fine. It was all just fine. Then we get Ang Lee rebooting the character for Universal in 2003, which, as I already said, and I've talked about this movie extensively on the channel, this is the best Marvel film ever made. It is the most comic book feeling comic book movie. The transitions, the slides, the way we just present. It is badass and cool and tragic and scary and bright and completely in its own lane in a way that we rarely get to see anymore. And it works so well. That design is accurate to source materials. A little wonky in the effects, but I think that just gave people a whole new appreciation for the Hulk. It turned him into a tragic figure, which is something that becomes lost in later interpretations because we can't have nuance in our movies. We're not allowed to. We're not allowed to have nuance in our movies anymore, especially for a character like this. Do you remember in 2012's Avengers movie where Bruce Banner says he tried to kill himself and he shot the trigger and Hulk spit out the bullet? Do you think we'll ever have a line like that again for a Hulk character? I don't think we will. I don't think we're allowed to do that. But this movie, you have sympathy for the Hulk. He is a mindless creature who is a product of testing that ruined him. It's such a good movie. I really like the movie. I'm sorry. I think it's good. The Hulk design is silly, but yeah, it's supposed to be. And then we have 2008, which is only 5 years later, with Edward Norton, because Hulk is a name people know. People like the Hulk. They are aware of his name, and they think it's interesting when he does stuff. That's the Hulk. That is a character people are aware of. And it works just fine. So we have to accept that. But then you have 2008's The Incredible Hulk. And it felt like we were on the right path to something working with that character. We were so close, you know? He's on the run from the military. We have his relationship with Thunderbolt Ross and what's her name? Liv Tyler's character, Betty. Like, everyone was there, doing the things. We set up Abomination so he could fight like a big version of himself. We were close. Bruce Banner was still doing like the wandering soldier, going around town to town, escaping the world. We're still doing that. This is kind of cool. I don't know. I'm sorry. I think it's kind of cool. It's a shame. It's a shame how far all that stuff has just fallen. Where we just don't do it anymore. We don't let anything look like that anymore. Nothing ever exists in that way. I don't know. Kind of sucks. I wish we would take more time to do it, to get it right. What am I saying? The Hulk's never gonna be good again. It's like you nailed it. You nailed it, but you just didn't stick true to it at the same time. Like, I think when we get to Avengers, when we recast with Ruffalo, that's the tone you should have him in with the universe. Everyone's kind of afraid of him. He's a little bit on edge, and then, you know, we build up to the Hulk stuff, so it's interesting. He's a scary being. He's a scary being. And I think people just get afraid of, like, ever capturing that magic again. Because then he's not in another one till the next Avengers movie, and that doesn't work for the Hulk, and then it's Thor Ragnarok, and then it's just the Avengers, and never really works, does it? I think if we're looking at like the perfect tone for the character in a cinematic universe, it is the Avengers film, the first one. I think a lot of that has to do with Joss Whedon being a talented writer and knowing how to make his characters interesting. We're talking about the best Hulk movie. It's The Incredible Hulk. No, it's not. It's 2003's Hulk. I don't know why I said that. If we're talking about the best in terms of like comic book adaptation, it's the TV show from the 70s. I think it's literally gotten worse each time. And the more Hulk stuff we see currently, the worse it's going to become. The less interesting it's going to become. The more boring it's going to become. But I could be wrong. Perhaps they will make a deal with Universal and they can make a Hulk movie again. I know that's like the reason things are the way they are, but we're never going to see like a proper adaptation of World War Hulk. You know? We might do like Hulk versus Wolverine, but even that's a boring fucking story. I just don't see it happening, you know? I just don't see it happening. But whatever, you know? I want to be upset, and I am upset. But at the same time, there's so many good Hulk comic books out there. Like, writers want to turn them into like a gothic horror tragedy, and they will. So I'm not going to lose sleep when these movies that I don't like don't do this character justice. I have a good Hulk movie from 2003 that will never be made again. And at the very least, that's kind of interesting. That's something. Something to like. I don't know. I'm looking right now at a list of like Hulk villains. And I'm seeing like Juggernaut. No, we're not going to do a Juggernaut thing. Wendigo, that would be in the Wolverine thing. It's like we failed. Failed the Hulk. We did it right, and then we failed again. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll be better, but expect Lou Ferrigno to appear as Maestro. It's not going to be Lou Ferrigno, though. They would never be that bold. He is 73. His hair is already like white, so bring him back as Maestro. He's my Maestro pick. All right. I got to stop before I get more sad. I like the Hulk a lot. I think there's good Hulk stuff out there, but a lot of it's pretty bad, and the MCU stuff is the worst. Okay, thank you all for watching this episode of the GeekWave. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And of course, I will catch you in the next one. Have fun, stay safe, good luck.